Alright everyone, Tom from Golden Goal here. I'm going to take you through a preview of Game Week 16 in FPL. We've got one more week to go until the World Cup. I'm feeling a bit punty. You're going to find out who I'm going to bring in later in the video. But first, I'm going to show you through how I got on in Game Week 15, how I'm lining up in 16, and then the surprise player that I'm going to bring in. I've also got some clean sheets, some goal scorer odds, and from my friends at Drafthound, I've got the ideal 11 for Game Week 16 and the top players for expected points to show at the end as well. So stick around to the end and there are some stats for you as well. If you haven't already, it would be absolutely amazing if you could like the video and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. Once the World Cup's done, I'll be putting out weekly FPL videos with clean sheet odds, all the stats that you could want, and some player recommendations from myself. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so this is my team in Game Week 15, 61 points, which I think was just slightly better than the average. I'm now into an overall rank of 528k, which is obviously not the standard that I expect for myself, but I guess we'll take it considering some of the luck that I've had this season. Namely, last week, I tried to do Solanke to Callum Wilson for his 2 goals and 2 assists, but the game froze as I was trying to make the transfers and it didn't go through. So yeah, I don't know what my rank would be if I had 19 more points, which I would have done if I had Wilson. But we can do some research into that and work it out, because I think I'm going to count that as my final score, to be honest. My defence, not much to say really about Guaita Dunk. Just disappointing that their team's conceded goals, really. Cancelo, obviously, is -2 for a red card. Some debate as to whether it was actually a red card, but ultimately I can't be too upset because I think pretty much all of the game have him in their teams, so it doesn't make a difference really how Cancelo does. One thing I will say is probably lucky that I just didn't have him as captain or vice. So yeah, I only actually got -2 from him. Kieran Trippier, absolute legend of FPL this season. I think he's one of my favourite players in the game. Really good price, and he's just continually performing really well. Even in games that you don't expect him to, he picks up returns. Whereas Southampton, obviously they scored late on in the game, but Trippier was off the pitch by that time. So it was a very jammy clean sheet indeed from Trippier. I had Salah as my vice-captain. I'll talk a bit more about my actual captain when we get down to it. But yeah, really happy with the brace for Spurs. A lot of people were suggesting that Salah to KDB would be a smart transfer, but having watched Spurs in the last few weeks, they just start games absolutely terribly. And I really wanted Salah for his fixture against Southampton in Game Week 16 as well. So I was really happy to keep him and have him as my vice-captain. Obviously, he scored 2 goals, really happy. Not much to say about Martinelli, but he did keep a clean sheet for that extra point. Saka was my transfer, well, one of my transfers in this week. Brought him in for Foden after realising that Foden wouldn't play. I'll take what I could get from Saka in the Chelsea fixture. Thankfully got me an assist, so really happy with that. And then Zaha, praise be that he got me some points. I think thankfully Foden was actually benched, because Zaha would have made way for Saka this week had it been that Foden started. Thankfully, I guess Foden was benched, and that meant that I got to keep Zaha for his 12 points. My captain this week was Callum Wilson. The stars sort of aligned in my view for him to be a decent captaincy shout. Obviously, the only thing overshadowing Wilson this week, as most players will know, is he reported on his BBC podcast that he does with Mikel Antonio that he had a slight illness at the start of the week. His manager, Eddie Howe, was obviously had his press conference. He said Wilson was fine, and then we find that he got subbed at 45, at half-time with his illness. So that was just unfortunate, really. I think his underlying numbers were either the same as, if not better than, Erling Haaland's. And I just think he's a top-class centre-forward, and Newcastle look a really good team. And obviously off the back of that game, Southampton have just sacked their manager, and Newcastle scored 4 goals, right? So I think he was a sound decision, just the outcome wasn't in my favour. Dom Solanke, a bit of a legend for me, really. Every time I've considered selling him, he's done the goods. He shouldn't even be in my team. Like I said, I took him out for Wilson last week, and he only stayed because of the game freezing. But yeah, very happy with a goal from him. He'll be an option for me as well in 16. He's got Everton at home. He's on penalties, nailed, 90 minutes. I really like the thought of keeping Solanke for that week. And then Haaland, didn't have the captaincy on him, but obviously I'll take the goal that he got against Fulham. Not much to say really there about my bench players. I don't have Danny Ward, unfortunately. On my wildcard, I just couldn't afford him. I've had Guaita in every week. To great disappointment, really, compared to Ward. I wish I'd have just gone the Ward-Iverson double up and used the 0.5 elsewhere. But again, what can you do? We move on. So yeah, 61 points in total in Game Week 15. And looking forward now to Game Week 16. And speaking of Game Week 16, this is what my team's looking like. I've got one free transfer in the bank and $2.5 million to spend. I've got one simple idea for my transfer. I think there are a few players certainly to consider, likes of Almiron, KDB maybe. Foden back in again, he could play at the weekend. But one player that I'm really eyeing up is Ivan Perisic. He's in at $5.5 million at the moment in FPL. He looked really exciting against Liverpool. Antonio Conte started him up front. I'm expecting him to get a rest in this midweek cup game against Nottingham Forest. I don't think he's going to play that fixture, and then he will be fit to play against Leeds at home. With Kulusevski and Lucas Moura, well, Kulusevski seems to be back from his injury now, but Lucas Moura, I heard on commentary that he was still struggling with a bit of an issue, which suggests to me that Perisic has got a good chance of starting up front v Leeds alongside Harry Kane. So I really like him as just a 1 week punt. Just as a great option. And looking at the clean sheet odds, which I'll show next, but Spurs have got a 32% chance of a clean sheet in Game Week 16. So a player that's going to start up front alongside Harry Kane against a Leeds team that are conceding goals, and he can get points for a clean sheet, which he has a 32% chance of getting. I think he's a great option. Another thing to notice about his performance against Liverpool as well is I thought we had a really good game. I know Conte subbed him off. I think he came off for Kulusevski. But he just looked fantastic. And he's hit the post twice as well. He could have had a brace in that game. Like a defender that has the potential of scoring a brace against Liverpool, I think is a really good option against Leeds at home. So for that reason, I think I'm going to bring in Perisic. And then just quickly looking back to my team, I think the one to probably get rid of this week is just Nico Williams. Just being that he's not entirely nailed now to start for Forest. The fact that Guehi's obviously nailed for Palace, Dunk's nailed for Brighton, and both of them have decent fixtures where they might well have to come off my bench, and they've got a good chance for clean sheet. I think I'm going to do Williams to Perisic, and then I'm going to start Trippier, Cancelo, and Perisic as my back three, and then have the same forward line as my team for 15. So that's my plan. Okay, so a quick look at the clean sheet and goal scoring odds for Game Week 16. On the clean sheet front, top of the list, Man City, followed by Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham and Brighton. I don't usually tend to consider teams that are under really 30%, but I think United and Newcastle, Man United and Newcastle that is, have got good chance of clean sheets this week. For United, it's all around how Fulham line up. If Mitrovic appears to be fit again, then I think that makes Fulham a different opponent than it does when he's not in the team. I think Man United could possibly keep a clean sheet in that game if Mitrovic isn't playing. With Newcastle, I think they've got a higher, in my opinion, I think it's slightly higher than that. Chelsea don't look too dangerous going forwards. And given that Newcastle are at St James's Park, I think that completely changes things for Newcastle, above and beyond how they are away from home. I just think the atmosphere, the stadium, St James's Park is just a much more formidable Newcastle, even though they're ridiculously good away from home at the moment. But yeah, I think I'd back Newcastle to keep a clean sheet against Chelsea. Might be a controversial opinion, but I think they've got it in them. And then for goal scoring odds, not really a surprise, I guess. Top of the list is Haaland. I think we're pretty much going to see that he's the top goal scorer pretty much every week. Salah in second, Kane in third. I think Edwards there is a bit of an anomaly. So I'm going to say that Nunez and Jesus top off the top five, and then the rest are there just for you to look at. I'd say that goal-scoring odds sheet, along with something else I'm about to show you, is what you should use for your captaincy decisions, and Haaland is top of the list for that. So unless we get any intel that Haaland's not playing, I think Haaland is the best captain for Game Week 16. And then here are some stats courtesy of my friends at Drafthound. These are the top point scorers for the game week, and then on the right is the top 11 based on their total points for the game week. So top of the list, no surprise based on those goal scoring odds, it's Erling Haaland. Second on the list, Kevin De Bruyne. Third is Salah, then Kane, and then Saka. And the rest of the players are there for you to see. But it's mainly dominated by Man City, Arsenal, bit of Liverpool and a bit of Newcastle in there as well. Right, and that concludes the video. If I don't make another one of these before the game week starts, please check out my deadline stream. I'll be streaming at 10 a.m. on Saturday for the hour before the deadline. So please keep it locked to the Golden Goal channel. Like the video, subscribe so you can obviously see my deadline stream and any other videos that I'll be bringing out FPL related on this channel. And above all else, have a great game week in game week 16. If you're playing World Cup Fantasy, hope you have a great time doing that. If you want to take a break, I hope you have a lovely break over World Cup and the Christmas period. And I'll catch you before Boxing Day for some more FPL content. I'll catch you later, everyone.